Since many of you have joined us for the first time, first 1 hour or so I'll speak, and then half hour we'll have question answers. So today's topic is interesting because it is with regards to our mind and various games that it plays. So the topic that day when Venkat had called, so it clicked at that moment, so I gave that topic, mind games, managing versus manipulating. As we have already gone through the first 3 days, different aspects and different layers of this mind and understanding it. A little brief introduction into how great, how beautiful and how specifically well designed equipment that we carry, which is called our mind. Do we all have a mind?
Yes.
It's not a trick question, it's a simple question. We all have a mind, right? So this mind of ours, for some it is, they say that sometimes it is difficult to tackle it, sometimes it is passive, sometimes it is aggressive, sometimes it is submissive. It goes through different kinds of modes. But this mind of ours is an amazing tool. And there are certain things that Bhagavan, God, when He has created, He has put them in such default setting wherein we don't need to mess with it. It is not our responsibility. He has put it in such default setting. There are certain things that He has put in default setting which I am glad He has put it that way. Like for example, breathing. Imagine if Bhagavan had put this breathing as our responsibility. What would we be busy doing? Only doing that. Whenever there is a construction site, they say, men busy, men at work, drive slowly or cautiously. So, we would have had a board. Breathing session in progress. Kindly do not disturb. What would have happened? Suddenly while speaking, the speaker fell. Why? He forgot breathing. Thank God that it is not a voluntary process. It is an involuntary process that happens all by itself. Right? Similarly is the mind, the way it works. Mind has got this amazing capacity to receive information and data from the external world. Now in many of these recent homes, they have a special room, a specific room dedicated, and they call it as media room, wherein they have amazing luxurious seat. I'm talking only of the seating. Luxurious theatre style seating, and they have a home theatre there. Next to the home theatre system, there is this. They have Dolby 5.1. Have you heard these numbers? You have heard of these numbers? What does that 5.1 stand for?
5 speakers and one frequency.
It is definitely not frequency. One of you had said it.
5 speakers, one.
A very generic layman's term, that would be fair enough an answer. And if I were a quiz master, I would not give marks for that. But as a layman's term, yes, it has 5 speakers, 2 front, 2 back, and 1 in the middle. And underneath that there would be usually a subwoofer, 5.1. But in a deeper understanding, 5.1 is not with respect to the speaker, but it is respect to the track. When the track is designed or edited or it is created, the editing process is the most difficult job. In a video or audio editing, it's the most difficult job. Because in this editing process, you have to synchronize, and in that synchronization there are 5 channels in each track. That 5 indicates that 5 channels. As the output of each channel is one of these speakers. And point 1 is that there is one extra track or extra channel in that track, wherein all of them, if required, are merged into one single channel, which is usually aired through the subwoofer. So supposing there is a musical ensemble and then they have various instruments, vocalists, and even in vocalists they have a high pitch, low pitch, there is a sync, various things brought in together. So they have probably the string instruments on one channel, the 5 channels, and then you have the main voice in the central channel, then the percussions on one channel, and they mix it. And when they call it remixing, you must have heard many remixes these days, right? Everything is a remix. So when they talk about remixing, they have changed some of these channels to make it into a different beat or a different tune or a different, something different in it is added in. Similarly, our mind has got this amazing capacity to synchronize 5 different channels into one experience. See, our mind is connected to 2 systems. Like in the computer you have I/O. What does that I/O stand for? Input output devices. So to a computer, what is an input device?
Keyboard, mouse, any pointing device.
Keyboard, mouse, these are all input devices. Output device?
Monitor, printer.
Monitor, printer, projector. Is projector an output device? So you have input output devices. Similarly, the brain is connected to 2 different instruments, 2 different set of instruments, and they are called the input output devices. Input are the organs of perception. Through the eyes, what do? We perceive, we see. So I would say through the eyes we have the MPEG-4. Right? Through the ears, MP3. Thank you. Now it becomes difficult, the later part. Through the nose, through the nose. Through the nose, it is the smell. Whatever, fragrance or otherwise, it smells. Smelling is its capacity. Its knowledge, that is the input. Through the tongue, taste. And through the skin, touch. We'll have to be very specific with the words that we use. feel is a different utility altogether. This is touch. And nowadays, when you have this different gadgets, I touch, you touch, we touch, all these touch gadgets. This is called exaggeration in speech. So we have these touch instruments, right? Touch meaning the perception of skin. With the skin we feel the touch. So all these 5 instruments are connected, and the mind, what does it do? The mind does an amazing job of synchronizing each moment into an experience. Have you ever seen, I'm sure you must have you ever seen what they call bootlegged or pirated DVD? Thank you for an instant honesty.
Yes.
I'm talking to Indians, I'm sure. I'm just waiting for the response. You have done it, right? You've gone through a pirated DVD or things like that.
That's all we get.
$2.
That's all we can get here for Indian.
$2.
Okay, too much of information. Sometimes when you have these pirated DVDs, you have a little flaw in them. A flaw wherein the speech is either going fast or slower than the video. How long can you watch such a DVD? After a while, after 5-10 minutes, you get really, it is disturbing, quite distracting. You just turn it off and find something else. With just 0.1 to 0.2 seconds of lag or variation between the sound and the video, we feel bored, we feel disturbed. Imagine, in through these 5 different channels, we are constantly getting information. The mind, the brain is gathering constant information. And what is the mind doing? It is constantly bundling each one of those moments, data received, into one experience. And isn't it doing a flawless job? In spite of it doing a flawless job, we have misunderstandings, lot of misses that happen. Imagine if there was a lag between each one of these channels, that you see one thing but hear something else, smell something else, taste something else, touch something else. Our whole experience would have been a comped off system. But that is one default setting which happens with such precision. Right? What you see, what you hear, what you taste, what you smell, what you touch, everything is synchronized and bundled into one single experience. Right from the moment that we wake to the moment that we sleep, it is constantly churning out these moments of experiences. And how precise does it work? Do we need to test it? Let us test. What is this?
Orange.
Are you sure?
Tangerine.
Clementine, tangerine, orange. Cuties. I asked this question. As soon as I asked this question, how quick was the answer? Now it is a nano world, so can we say it as a nanoseconds? Fraction of nanoseconds? The moment you heard it and saw something in my hand, for giving that particular answer, do you know what was the processing that went by? that through the ears you heard the sound, through the eyes you perceived, you saw the vastu or the object in my hand, and the mind pulled up in its search mode different options of round orangish color things, and it narrowed down. That first answer was orange, the next answer was tangerine, the next answer was clementines, the further processed answer was cuties. So it zeroed in onto the answer. So much of processing done in fraction of seconds. It has heard, it has seen, and whatever it has heard and seen, it has processed it and gave out immediate answer. And that answer went through the mind, and the mind whips the organ of action. Here, what was the organ of action? Speech. Through the speech we answered that it was an orange. Right? You may say it is a very simple process. But can you see the complicated train of events that happened, and that happens with such precision and with such speed. And it happens day in and day out, the moment we wake up to the moment we sleep. Do you want to see another spectacular experience? Okay. Did you know I was going to throw it to you?
No. No.
What's your name?
Raghu.
Raghu. Did you know that that was coming at you?
Yeah, I saw it here.
No. Just about a feet and a half,
Yeah.
you saw it, right? Can you imagine what was the processing that was happening behind? When something is thrown at you, there are different options. Either you can catch it. I asked some of these kids, if I throw something at you, what will you do? So somebody said, I will duck. Somebody said, I will catch. Somebody said, I will throw it back at you. So one kid gave me the best answer. It depends on what you throw. So now when I throw this particular thing at you, the brain and the way the mind calculates, it may or may not know the science or articulate the science behind it. But it is doing all the processing. That it has now viewed the size. It has perceived the size. And along with the size, it is monitoring its speed. Along with the speed, it is monitoring its trajectory. Along with its trajectory, it is also monitoring its velocity. You may not be able to articulate all these. You may not be able to specifically pinpoint and say that it was 70 miles per hour. You may not. You see it and there is this calculation. And the mind has not just calculated it, it has also made a decision. Within that fraction of a minute, a fraction of a second, it has also made a decision. It is something that I can handle. It is something that I need not duck. It is something that I can catch. And after it makes the decision, it has to coordinate the hands and the eye movement in the exact angle to receive it. Thus, there are some of them who are called the Indian cricket players, they don't have that coordination. So you are disqualified from Indian team. Because if you don't catch, that is when you will be possible to reach that team. That is also called sarcasm. So you have to have that eye and hand coordination, and in that particular angle you have to receive it. So much of processing being done. Right? Mind is an amazing instrument as it has been created. There is nothing wrong with it. Does our mind function in that pattern as I have described? Yes or no? Yes. So we are blessed. Whenever we have this, I don't know if this God and am I really blessed? Think about all these things. Do we have a good functional mind? Do we have all the 5 organs of perception, organs of action functional? Right? We have everything. This is called counting the blessings. We have got amazing instruments, sharp, the way it has been created. Now, where does the problem come with this mind? In spite of such precision instrument that we have, where we really start finding it difficult is when this mind starts entertaining thoughts. And these thoughts can be classified into 2 categories. Willed thought, unwilled thought. Most of you that you are sitting here, have you come here on your own choice?
Yes.
All the adults will say yes. Right? Were you given a choice to make a choice to come here? So most of the adults have come with their own willed choice. I'm just giving you an example of willed thought. You have made a will or a thought, made a choice and taken an action in that particular direction. Now whether it is a good experience, bad experience, ugly experience, indifferent experience, depends on how you choose to go through it. How different parameters work around you and how you go through it, there is a different result to it. Even in that particular aspect of our mind and its functioning, I don't see a problem. Though many would not want to take the responsibility of the results of their willed actions as well. That's a totally different case. That can be given a different case study altogether. The problem comes when we have to deal with unwilled thoughts. Pata nahi kahan se triggered. You don't know where it gets triggered, how it gets triggered. It just is like an overwhelming flow. And when it charges in with that overwhelming flow, there is absolutely no control. What direction we take, how we take, and what decisions we make, nothing seems to be in our control. Do you all get angry?
Yes.
Everybody?
Yes.
How often?
Very often.
Okay, every day. How many times a day?
It depends.
I have just taken one example of anger, irritation or frustration. And it is quite evident with the kind of answers that we have. What triggered it? Many things that can trigger it. And once triggered, is it under control?
No.
Can, could is not what we are talking. Let us talk about ground reality. Would have, could have, should have is not what we are talking. What is the fact is what we are talking. So we know that reality. Let us take something more baser than anger. Have you ever tried eating one chip, potato chip? I have to specifically say that because I come from that part of Texas wherein they make both edible and non-edible chips. TI and such, they make the semiconductor computer chips. And the other one is Frito-Lays, that is also in Dallas. I am talking about the Frito-Lay variety. So when you have those chips, have you ever stopped with one chip? You just tasted it and stopped.
No.
Like you. When do we stop? It is not that we end stopping, it is that the packet is done. Whether it is a small 20-ounce packet or a big sack or a bag or whatever you call it. When do you stop? When the packet is done. Until then, chalta rehta hai. It keeps going on. And why did you start eating? Not because you are hungry. There are situations, there are times when you are hungry and you end up eating it, that I can understand. Many a times it is not because you are hungry. It was lying there. ऐसे पड़ा था. Therefore, in Hindi they say, खाने वाले को खाने का बहाना चाहिए. तो पड़ा था. And we never stop. One of the presidents of US, I don't know which one, he was a farmer and he had a strange liking to peanuts. So he defines, he says, what is self-discipline? So he says, self-discipline to eat one salted peanut and stop. I don't know which president was it.
Jimmy Carter.
Jimmy Carter? Okay. We never stop. Whether it is at a physical level, emotional level or an intellectual level, when it is triggered, the unwilled aspect of it, we have absolutely no control over it. Right? Instead of managing it, we get manipulated by it. Unwilled thought is so aggressively powerful that I do not have absolutely any control over it. When you get angry, when do you realize that it was not necessary for you to really show that kind of anger? और थोड़ा सामने आ जाइए. Sit down, sit down. So when we get angry, we were talking about that one particular part, one particular emotion. When do we realize that, oh gosh, I shouldn't have gotten angry? After, if you ever calm down. One of the most common things that we scold our own siblings, our own next generation. And what is the most common dialogue after you recover? It is not that I don't love you. It is because I care for you that I just lost it. Why do you push me to do so? Just because somebody pushes you to do so, do you do things?
No.
That is why I had asked you, should they be here? Just because somebody pushes you, do you do things? There are so many good things that people keep pushing. Do we do them? We question them, we challenge them, we doubt them. We don't directly jump. And just because for these things somebody pushes and we say, oh, you pushed, therefore I slipped. Isn't it weird? These unwilled, instead of getting managed, they manipulate. They manipulate in such vigorous patterns and tendencies that sometimes it is too late to take that entire grip and challenge in one's own hands. It's already lost battle. In many situations, so instead of getting manipulated, what do we learn? How do we manage? What is the difference between managing and manipulating? Let us get the basic understanding. Both seem to work in the same pattern, right? Managing and manipulating. You're managing something other than yourself. Manipulation also, you are doing something other than yourself. So what is the difference between managing and manipulation?
There's no anger. When you're managing, it's...
Sometimes Hindi kahavat, there is a beautiful saying, लातों के भूत बातों से नहीं मानता तो लात मारो. I don't know how to translate that into English. It's very difficult. The difference between managing and manipulation, pay attention here, is that whenever we talk about manipulating, in manipulation there is an ulterior motive of selfish gain. You understand who has what kind of potentiality or resources and other things, you gather everything and then you try snatching it for your own benefit, for your own personal upliftment. There is an ulterior motive. Such an effort can be called as, such person is a very manipulative individual. Doesn't make sense? What is managing? Managing also involves understanding others' resources, skills, talents, bringing them to a common platform and ushering them into that direction, but not for our own selfish ulterior motives, but for the upliftment of the individual and the entire team together for a positive goal to reach. Is the definition fair enough between managing and manipulating? Are you all agree with me with that definition? Now with regards to our thoughts and emotions, are we managing it or are we getting manipulated by it? What percentage? They are manipulating most of the time. And how much percentage would you call as managed?
80, 20, 80 is managed, 20 is manipulative. That's how I feel.
How many agree with that?
I would say the other way around.
The other way around.
50-50.
99-1.
No, I am curious. What is 99? What is 1?
99 manipulation, 1 management.
I think we manage our manipulation. Is what I would call it the other way. We just
Say that again.
we just manage our manipulation is what we do.
Can we really? If we are already lost in our manipulations, are we even available to manage them? Or what we end up doing as a repair work for our manipulations, is that what we are calling as managing? As a after effect. So whatever be the percentages, it seems like there is a majority chunk of our life which is being manipulated rather than being managed. Right? How do we change this pattern? How do we bring about that change based through which you can take grip of one's own life? Have you ever tried? Don't try it, okay? This country, as a speaker, I have to be careful as to what I suggest and what I ask. So I have given you my disclaimer, okay? Don't try it. But have you ever tried crossing a freeway from this end to that end? Walking. Has anybody?
It's not a freeway, but it was a small path of yes.
I'm not talking about these small, I'm talking specific. You cannot change my question paper. My specific question was that you cross the freeway.
Manipulating it.
But becoming conscious of it, I managed it. Okay, back to the question. Once I was driving and it was a 5-laner, and somewhere on the leftmost lane is where I usually drive. I'm the fastest one driving. So I was there in that lane and the tire got hit by some metal and the entire tire got ripped out, the back tire. And it came to a screeching stop, and luckily there was no traffic behind. We were 5 of us, including myself, and there was no shoulder onto the left hand side. So the nearest safety was onto the rightmost shoulder. And that is the day when I realized that wearing orange in US is quite beneficial. I opened the door, stood out. I was the first one that I walked out to see what was the damage. Because sometimes in that speed, this tire which is out there can lead to further accidents. So I was just concerned, so I stepped out and I asked the others to stay in. And as soon as they saw me stepping out in complete orange, the entire traffic had literally stopped. I was like Moses, who had parted the river and left that vehicle there and came out to the rightmost shoulder safe. So yes, once in my lifetime on a freeway, not a small part, a freeway crossed. I told you what condition I crossed it in. Otherwise it is not at all a possible task to safely cross a freeway. Presently, our mind, with all its thoughts, feelings and emotions, is like that freeway. When the thought comes, when emotions erupt, when these overwhelming things come, we have absolutely no control, it just gushes in. And where are we? Are we on the shoulder or are we in the flow?
We are in flow.
And we try pulling ourselves out. Are we able to pull ourselves out?
We need orange beret. Man with orange cloth.
आप भी तो पहने हो काका. Fortunately, he's wearing. Well, this is a pure orange power. It has got some white spray.
It's doubtful whether it will stop or not.
So in the freeway of our mind, with all these emotions gushing day in and day out, the first liability that we go through, in spite of living in a generation wherein everything is almost automated. I really wonder when some people say that, oh, I have a lot of laundry. करना क्या है तुमको? Laundry in this country करना क्या पड़ता? I am comparing it with the Indian laundry. That buckets full of it, you sit and then here all that you have to do is. Am I exaggerating? Yes, one part of this entire laundry which I also don't like from the bottom of my heart. Ironing, folding also I am okay to do. Ironing is something that I cannot stand. I can live by wearing unironed clothes. People getting frustrated that I am wearing it. उतार के दो हम करके देंगे. Otherwise, most of the laundry is easy.
Except detergent.
You get the point. We are living in a luxurious world wherein almost everything is automated. Right? In spite of living in such automated environment, why is our energy levels constantly low? There has been a research done, and the research says imagine that you are on a bike, uphill, with gentle winds against you. And in that environment, you are riding it for half hour. Can you imagine the amount of energy that you are spending? Can you visualize it? I don't want you to quantify it, just visualize it, the amount of energy that you can be spending. That much amount of energy can be very casually spent on 5 to 10 minutes of vigorous, agitated, emotional turmoil. And how many times do we go through in a day? As per your responses, one of the emotions that I had taken was anger. And that was in plenty. What about the others? Fears, anxieties, doubts, disbeliefs. And when we go through all these different emotional chunks, where is the energy? It's already down the drain. For God's sake, you just woken up. You're just coming out and saying, I feel I'm so tired. You're just waking up and you still feel tired. I don't know about you guys, but I am being entertained. Do you get the point? How much of energy is being wasted? Can you visualize that with that amount of energy dissipation that we are constantly going through and still achieve little bit of accomplishments in our life? Imagine if that energy was to our benefit, it was in our control, in our management system. What amount of accomplishments would we have gathered in each one of our lives? Can you visualize? So my question to you is, do you want to find a method to manage rather than feel frustrated about being manipulated by our own thoughts, emotions and feelings? Because we have analyzed the entire problem. Now is the solution. Are you interested in the solution?
Yes.
Before we step into the solution, have you understood the problem? Because in my opinion, a thorough understanding of the problem is the 50% of solution. Many of us not understanding the problem, we try out different solutions.
Related to that expected, unexpected results, if you are expecting, then you don't need to...
Oh, I am not even going into that layer. It is just the willed and unwilled. How do we control it? I am not even talking about the results that we spoke the first day. Yes.
In my personal experience, managing and managing anger, usually I manage my anger in office. In office, for my manager, I don't manipulate my
So,
anger. Right?
who is your sacred Balika Bakra at home?
The one who catches Ari.
And
That's how you learned how to catch. But I totally appreciate the sincerity with which you are asking it. It's not easy for somebody to ask it. So,
I manipulate my anger towards my husband or towards my close ones, but I manage my anger towards my
close ones or closed ones?
close ones, my close friends, my husband, my
Because
parents.
after your anger, they may become close.
That's what, I make sure that they won't get close if I manipulate also. But then, that means I can distinguish between managing and manipulating, right? So, if I can sit, think, and maybe that is not the that is the solution of the problem, right? Getting them, I know two ways.
But what mistake that you are doing is you are allowing it build up. The method that I am thinking of is that there is no residual build up. You handle it, manage it and move forward without a baggage of building up. Because that build up is quite a tricky potentiality for disaster. Because you don't know when it will burst. Anything can trigger it. What happens if you don't have such an environment of your husband or friend around and you have to continue for 3, 4, 5 more days? Kahin to chutega na?
Yeah,
It is like the pressure cooker building. If that pressure is not released, the wall will break. That is a disaster.
But that manipulation also only for sometimes. For 2 days it will be manipulated. Third day it will be managed because you think through the situation.
Hopefully it gets managed.
Yeah, it gets
But there is a high vulnerability of it getting into a bursting situation, which is totally catastrophic. Right? So the method that we are thinking about, which the rishis have constantly supplied it as the very first introduction into a child's life. Whether the child understands that process or not, it doesn't matter. The method has been drilled into that child right from the beginning, as young as 4 years of age. And that process is called Upanayana. What do they do in Upanayana? They initiate, there is an initiation ceremony. Now, many things in our Hindu tradition and culture, we have the ritual, but the meaning behind the ritual is so far lost that it doesn't make sense anymore. Sometimes what we do is, it's not just in Hindu culture. Do you know how saluting, how did it come into picture? Where this tradition started? It started with the British, the old monarchy, wherein they were knights, and the knights used to wear this armored, metal helmet and metal suits. So if somebody is entering into the fort, and with the metal covering, you don't know whether he is your team or the opposite team. So it was mandatory that they pick their masks up. Because they had to pick their masks up, it had become a tradition, which today we call it as saluting. But when it started with that practicality of, viewing whether it was a friend or a foe. So when the general was to take a stock of his entire fleet, so he would go across and check everybody personally. Is this fellow my team or is this fellow an infiltrated? So when that was being done, the mask has gone, the helmet has gone, the hand has not gone. It is not just about there are various things that we follow wherein the ritual is left in the meaningless purpose. And there are sometimes there is a meaning and we have lost the meaning, so we throw the purposeful process as well. So that method which was initiated through the Gayatri mantra was called the Upanayana or Janevu or the thread ceremony, holy thread ceremony. Those who have been initiated and those who systematically follow it, I have made a statistical analysis. Such kids do not have to go through ADD, ADHD. Because this process has already initiated them into channelizing their energies. The basic structure of this process is called japa. The basic structure is japa. But whenever we hear japa, what is it? What is the meaning that runs in our minds? What do we mean by japa? It is not meditation. Chanting, reciting, repeating one syllable or the entire thing. Sometimes it is like a marathon, sometimes it is like a 100-meter dash. It depends. Like they do, say, Hanuman Chalisa 108 times Parayan. So with the speed with which they are going, you can tell what hour of chanting are they into. Like they are into at least 3 or 4 hours. Because they don't have patience anymore to go through Shri, Guru, Charan, Saroja. They are rushing through it. That is not called japa. Japa is such a beautiful method. Have I spoken about this method in this, not these 4 days, but in the past?
No.
So pay attention. What does japa do? we repeat the name of the Lord. But there is a beautiful science behind this entire process. Whenever our minds are agitated, whenever, do not try forcing to stop that mind. It would be a futile effort. At that moment when there is a vehement energy rushing through, raw energy rushing through, and you try to stop it, it is like walking through the freeway. You are going to be psychologically hit. Don't try stopping it. The more you try fighting it, the more vehement that entire pattern becomes. Don't fight it. But instead, try understanding this process and its application. At that moment of such vigorous raw energy running through that emotion, when they say emotions are running high, how is your breathing? Low?
No breathing, I mean, you don't breathe much.
Shallow. Shallow, fast, unrhythmic. You are not, by definition, you are not in a meditative trance right now. But still, how is your breathing at this moment?
Slow.
It is slow?
Normal.
Normal? No, we have to define normal again. Because when people see me and say, Swamiji, why did you take this path? When did you think of taking this path and not doing the normal path? I say, hold on. Are you suggesting that I am abnormal? So you have to define normal. It is slow, deep, rhythmic. Right? There is an intimate relationship between breathing and emotions. Whenever the thoughts are rushing, the breathing is fast. Whenever the breathing is slow, correlating thought process is slower. Slower thought process does not mean that it is not an alert mind or a sharp mind. In fact, the slower the thought process, the more awareful, the sharper you are. We cannot control the mind or the gushing thoughts. Can we control and regulate our breathing?
Yes. Pranayama.
I am not talking about pranayama. I specifically avoid using that word. Can we control? For next minute, don't breathe. Can you not breathe? I am not talking about 1 minute. Okay, 37 seconds. Whatever it is. You can control it. Breathe fast, in and out. You can do it. You can regulate it, right? Mind is not like that. In certain modes you cannot control it. But breath can be controlled. So the next step is, that is why when you are sitting on the seat of meditation or for puja or japa, we have been constantly insisted that sit. So we start sitting straight. At 7:30 when we started, we were all straight. By the bend of the arc of your backbone, I can tell you that we have crossed 1 hour 10 minutes at least, or 1 hour 5 minutes. Please check. The arc of your back, I can tell. Why do we have to keep our back straight? So that the lungs are straightened and we take maximum breath in. Whenever the breathing gets slower or breathing is not complete, the brain doesn't get enough oxygen. That is when there is a demand for that oxygen. Yawning. The entire system is demanding oxygen and the mouth is like, it swells up, opens up and tries to grab all the oxygen everywhere. And so sit straight so that you can breathe maximum capacity. And then do not try to regulate the breath with counts, but instead there is one simple technique called Prana Vikshana. What do? Just observe the breathing to come down to a slow inhalation, slow exhalation. Simple process of slow inhalation, slowest possible, whatever you can afford to do. Slow inhalation, slow exhalation. Do you have $100? Anybody? Thank you. Avi? You all are lucky. Can everybody say Hari Om? Hari Om. Now everybody is saying Hari Om. Hari Om? Louder. Hari Om. Good. With this clarity, whoever can say Hari Om while breathing in, these $100 from him are your gift. Try. With that distinct clarity of what you had said earlier, Hari Om, while breathing in, say Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Just to make it interesting. Because the entire system, the way our voice box larynx works, is that the air has to come through it to make sensible meaning, unless the larynx has gone through certain repair, wherein they are given physical therapy, physiotherapy, to change that process and speak while, it's not very audible. So they keep little pipes and things like that to make it little audible. Otherwise the natural process is for the air to come out. So now you have slowed down your inhalation and exhalation. Do it for a count of 15 times. Who is the fastest athlete recently?
Bolt. Usain Bolt.
Have you seen those people, when they are taking out for a dash? Or for that matter, have you gone to a basketball game? Have you gone? At least seen it on the TV?
Yes.
Thank you. It would be a different picture if I had to explain. When you go to the game, from watching it from TV, we feel like, gosh, you missed it again. But when you go there and sit, you observe that there are about 40,000 people. Everybody shouting at the top of their lungs. On the top of it, they have these clappers and clippers and they're making disturbance, annoying disturbances. On the top of it, there is a 50 to 150,000 watts. 50,000 to 150,000 watts. Like if you are made to sit on such speaker, you will be vibrating 4-5 inches every single time there is a sound made there. That is the kind of speaker there. There is this constant thumping sound. Now what is that music they play?
Yes.
We will rock you.
We will rock you. That one. thud, thud, thud. And on the top of that, there is this fellow who is giving a running commentary. Can you imagine the kind of distraction and disturbance for that player? Irrespective of all these, he has to aim, shoot that three-pointer. If you observe keenly, what they do at that instant is they bend their head and quickly focus on their breath. Even these athletes who take a 100-meter, 200-meter dash, to clear their minds off and focus in that particular moment, what do? They come back to the rescue of the same Sahaja Pranayama or Sahaja Prana Vikshana. They observe their breath. Slow inhalation and exhalation. Mind instantly is wiped clean. It doesn't stop the trickling thoughts, but it gives that instant pause. If there are a bunch of 30-40 cars on the freeway which are going exactly at 65 miles per hour, what does it say? Cop is somewhere around. Right? Otherwise, if the regulated speed is 65, what are you driving at? Come on, tell me the reality.
72.
70.
85.
There you go. There you go. Similarly, when you constantly focus on your breath, all these thoughts are curtailed to that speed. You have reduced the speed of this motion of emotions. So what do you do at that time? It is easier to handle that flow rather than the gushing flow. Even at this moment, you do not tackle it with a forceful stopping. But instead, what do? A self-disciplined, a self-introduced thought is introduced into the flow of mind. That thought which is in synchronization with the breathing. That is why breathing is important. Long inhalation and exhalation, slow inhalation and exhalation, in sync with that thought which is introduced. That thought which is introduced is called the name of the Lord. So you breathe in. Shall we do an experiment?
Yes.
So sit straight. We'll just do Hari Om. Okay? So sit straight. For a count of 5 times, just breathe in and breathe out slowly. As slow as you can. Start. How do you feel? With that mindset, now while you are breathing in, consciously breathe in, and while breathing out, as long as you can last. Don't force yourself that you have to run out of breath. That you say Hari Om, just suddenly somebody falls, what happened? Out of breath. Don't overdo it. As long as you can last. So breathe in slowly. While breathing out, along with me. Again breathe in. Do you see the difference of texture of your own mind? We just did 5 times of slow breathing, concentrated breathing, and 2 times of chanting the name. Do you see the textural difference? You are not fighting with the thought. Instead, what are you doing? You are replacing the thought or the emotion or the feeling with this thought of the Lord in synchronization with your breath. Why in synchronization with breath? Yes, it slows down the speed is one fact of it, but the major fact of it is at any given point of time, mind can bring about only one thought per moment. Mind is not designed to make multiple thoughts parallel. At this moment, we may think that we are doing parallel processing, but the parallel processing is not parallel, but instead it is a serial processing, but it is happening at a different speed. That it appears as though they are happening parallel. It is like the computer, right? Even in the computer, at any given moment of time, there is only one process per moment. There are millions of instructions, but there is only one per moment. Similarly is our mind. So when we extend it with our breath and introduce that japa and extend it along with that breath, for that moment, can there be another thought? Can there be another feeling or emotion running parallelly? No. So when you consciously do it continuously for next 108 times or 50 times or 20 times, what happens to that earlier emotion, earlier thought, earlier feeling? So there are 4 layers of energy that is generated by this process. The first layer, the amount of energy that that particular thought would have or that emotion would have wasted is conserved. Energy conserved is energy saved. Actually, energy conserved means saved, energy generated. Right? Energy saved is energy generated. One layer of energy. Consciously you are breathing. So with your conscious breathing, what is happening? That much of oxygen is going in consciously and you are getting energized. Second layer of energy. Third layer of energy. These names of the Lord, they are combination of certain syllables called bija syllables. What is a bija syllable? Highest potency of positive energy. So they are combined. Om is one of them. So they are combined in that name, and just by chanting it, you are generating positive source of energy. Third layer. Now fourth layer. All the organs of perception, action at that particular moment are withdrawn from their actions. Fourth layer of saving. Such pooled resource of energy is called concentrated mind. When you say concentrated sulfuric acid, what does it mean? H2SO4, what does it mean concentrated?
It's not diluted.
It just burns.
There is nothing other than that sulfuric acid. Right? Similarly, concentrated mind, nothing other than that mind, no other distraction of thought, emotion, feeling occurs or passes by. That is called concentrated mind. Now that pooled energy, whether you use it internally for meditation or externally for studies or wherever you want to apply it, you have that energy, source of energy to be applied. The distraction is gone. You are energized. So what is the productivity outside?
Increases.
That is the method to bring control, manage the energy and mind, rather than getting allowed by that mind to be manipulated at every step of our life. Now somebody said, I am a very sentimental person. You know what is sentimental? Every centimeter of life you are mental. You are so manipulated by your emotions, thoughts, feelings that nothing seems to be under control. But with this method, you grow beyond these emotions and have the agility, have the freedom to direct them for positive, productive, constructive purposes. Any questions?
How many times you do it and what time of day?
Preferably, like for example, before I go to the preferences, before eating food and after eating food, do you wash your hands?
Yes.
Why? I can understand the hands are dirty, you have to get into the meal with a clean hand. Why afterwards? Oh, the food remaining on hand also is the dirt.
You can't
You have to. You can't walk out with when you eat like that. Just you have to clean it.
Point
right?
and case. Case and point. As for that particular action, you go in with hands washed and come out with hands washed. Preferably, go into your day with your mind cleaned. Come back from the day and clean your mind. So how many times daily? 15 times observing your breath and then introducing the name of the Lord. If you already have a name, continue with it. If you do not have that name, start with Hari Om. Don't keep waiting thinking that koi naam nahi mila aapka. You are being already introduced to it. Just repeat that Hari Om. Do it for anywhere between 20 times to 108 times.
But how do you count and concentrate on it at the same time?
In fact, the count and the concentration on the breath makes sure that the mind doesn't slip into its earlier patterns of emotions.
And you say that two thoughts cannot come at the same time. So
No, they are not happening at the same time.
you're counting before you're saying
Ah.
the next one. Okay.
So the count usually happens through these beats. So you are not actually counting 1, 2, but instead you are just rotating the beat. So as you take the breath, as you are exhaling, you say the name of the Lord and move the beat. So physical, emotional and intellectual, there is a tie-up only to this activity. So there is no scope for the mind to jump into some other activity. Yes. So you breathe in first, do the japa, and as soon as the japa is done, move the bead while you are breathing in again. Now if these practiced, mind does not have a scope to run out into any other field, any other thought, any other emotion. Do this twice. Once in the morning for 15 minutes, once in the evening for 15 minutes. How much time do you spend for taking shower? Do you take shower? I just presupposed that you do. Do you?
Normal.
आज करके आए हो कि नहीं? So do you take shower?
Yes.
How many times in a day? Give me a 5. I also take 3 times. Once, at least. Preferably once in the evening also. Once in the morning, once in the evening. Right? So after the shower, sit down, spend these 15 minutes. As much as physical cleanliness is important, cleaning up the mind is also equally important. What will happen if your computer is running parallel processes? Like there is a video file running, there is an audio file running, there is a download, there is an upload. You have 10 or 15 web browsers. It will slow down. And if your desktop has too many icons to add on with it, it will further slow down. There will come a moment wherein it will stop working. अरे crash बाद में होगा, जरूर होगा. हाँ, it hangs up. It hangs, and then it crashes. Similarly, up here, too many processes running slows down. For a long time, too many processes running hangs up. Sitting from here, I can tell how many of you are in, how many of you are out, how many of you are in between. The look on the face says it all, right? If you are listening, there is that intense listening, and there is the spark of understanding in the eyes. And sometimes when you are out, eyes are open, mouth is open, you are not there. You are gone. So don't be gone. Come back. As much as it is important to clean at the physical level, at the mind level, thorough cleaning, otherwise system hangs up. You had something to ask.
When you started talking about jump was where till the point where you said that let your thoughts run. Don't control them at that time. So then how do you connect the later to that? So at that point you just let your emotions run or let
Start focusing on your breath. Slow inhalation and slow exhalation. आजकल मूवीज में भी इसका बहुत मजाक करते हैं. Breathe बेटा, breathe. They have picked it up from this system only.
So you have to practice to remember that at that given point that's what you need to do.
Yes.
Like
You are not diverting. You are actually
yeah, you're getting back to it, but how you divert your mind? Like if something bothers you, you take it to some other level. So basically.
But the same thing that she said, she has been the other diversion processes. You build on it,
Yeah, but you.
and once it bursts, it's a catastrophe. Here, there is not even that moment or that chance given for that build-up. It is gathered, rechannelized, so that there is no scope for it to burst. This is called managing versus getting manipulated. Yes, sir.
You started talking about the Upanayana function, then came into...
So that Upanayana has this Sahaja Pranayama along with the mantra given at an age wherein they don't understand neither the prana nor the mantra. But given at that age and when systematically applied, they have already started learning to channelize that energies to a higher purpose. And after having initiated is when education starts. When you have already gathered that technology or the method to channelize that energy. Once channelized, then use that to learn and educate yourself. That is why that was the first process that was initiated. So what I am teaching or what I am just explaining is not a new brainwave or a new method. It was given in the simple process called Upanayana.
But that was only for men, right? Boys. Is that true statement or is that?
In the Vedas you find a reference that it is being given as an initiation to all, men and women. For example, you do some puja of Devi. Is there a step after the Vastra? Upavitam samarpayami?
Yes.
Though it is a Devi, you do have that step wherein you have the step wherein you are offering the Yajnopavita or the Janevu.
Okay.